Today I'm meeting with Stephen Brooks. He is a screenwriter, producer, and director, and he has done it all in the film industry. His most recent accomplishment, Binky, was selected for the Cannes Film Festival. Despite being rejected 99% of the time, Stephen says that show business is a marathon and that persistence means more than anything. Please welcome Stephen Brooks. So thank you, Stephen, for taking the time to talk with me today a little bit about your life and your career. So I want to ask you, you said you've done everything there is to do in the film industry, but specifically writing and directing is what you focus on. How did you get into this industry?
Got into a car accident and couldn't work as a PA doing commercials, which is sort of the fringes of the industry, and ended up landing a job at a visual effects company in Van Nuys and worked my way up to visual effects supervisor, which led to the writing, which led to the directing.
So how did you get started in that? Did you always want to be in this industry, or did...
Yes, I specifically left San Jose to go to UCLA Film School.
Okay.
So I always wanted to be a director and just worked my way up from the bottom. I got my PA job by getting a listing of commercial production companies and phone calling them and bugging them and showing up at their offices until someone hired me.
So it seems like you're very resilient. So you were persistent,
Yes.
You kept insisting.
Yes, show business is a marathon. Persistence means more than anything else.
How do you react? I mean, how do you get over that rejection?
I move on to the next thing because it's 99% rejection for anybody.
Yeah, that's actually a very important skill to take over to maybe another industry that isn't so hard.
So I have no choice. I have to be in the film business. I mean, I'm in it because I have to be in it. I have to tell stories. It's not just a job for me.
So would you say that because it's a calling, that's why you stay motivated and the rejection doesn't stop you?
No, in fact, rejection makes me double my efforts because I then move on to the next person, the next project or whatever.
So what would you say to the person who gets rejected and they want to just go home and sit on their couch, or they think, okay, this isn't for me?
Then it's not for them. I mean, the kind of person who's going to survive in the film business is the kind of person who's going to be rejected and say, you know what, they were wrong about me, and I'm going to prove it to them.
So what gives you the motivation to think that way and to continue pushing on? What is that thing that motivates you?
I think 30% of it is insanity. And, the other 30 minus 100, 70% is just, I've had enough success to know that, there are people out there and people like the people who've already liked what I've done, that makes sense, that just a matter of finding them, finding my niche, finding the right, I always talk about finding the audience, writing a script for an audience. And the same thing goes with having a meeting in the film business where the audience is the person on the other side of the desk. So I will approach a meeting with an executive who's wearing a suit differently than I would approach a meeting with an actor, let's say.
So you're kind of like a chameleon. You're able to adapt to your situation to suit your needs.
Have to, absolutely. Okay. It's playing the game. It's learning how the game is played and just playing it.
So do you think that's a skill? How would we learn that skill? How can someone adapt to that?
Be in the business. It's not something that's taught in film school. It's not something that you can read about in a blog. It's something you have to experience and have your own individual take on the game. Everyone plays the game differently.
Yes.
Some people are naturally able to play the game. They just somehow innately know how to play it. I had to learn.
So experiential learning, that seems like what you're talking about.
Right.
And that's what got you to where you are today. And
learning from the rejection. I mean, when someone doesn't want to either hire me or doesn't want to buy a script or doesn't like a script or whatever, I consider their opinion and think, is there something I could do differently? Can I learn from this or not? And oftentimes there's something to be learned. If a script is rejected for the same reason by 3 or 4 people, then there's probably a problem with the script. So I go back and look at that thing that bothered them. So that's part of the learning curve. The rejection is an integral part of the learning curve.
Yeah, so it seems like you're accommodating. So you have a goal that you're moving towards, but you reach a setback and you realize, okay, a couple people have told me this now. I need to create a new pathway to still get to where I want to be.
Exactly.
So would you say that part of your success is due to creating multiple pathways to ensure that you get the result that you want?
Yes. I mean, the key is to, and it relates to persistence, is because it all comes down to luck. It comes down to being at the right place at the right time. You have to be in front of someone, a decision maker, who wants exactly what you have at that exact moment. If you have a romantic comedy script and you're meeting with someone who wants a horror movie, it doesn't matter how good the romantic comedy script is, they'll never buy it. So the multiple pathways increases the person's chance of hitting the right place at the right time.
But there's some people who would say you create your own destiny, or you create your own environment, and they don't believe in that idea of luck. What do you say to that?
I say it's wrong. I mean, in a sense, we're kind of saying the same thing. Ultimately, I can't control whether or not someone else is going to like a script of mine. But I can take a script and go to 20 people, and of those 20, all I need is 1 to say yes. So I'm kind of creating my own destiny by spreading it out amongst a number of people so that I can get lucky. I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
Okay.
I think it is, anyway.
No, that's good. So can you tell me about a time that you felt insecure about yourself, or you felt that you couldn't achieve what you wanted to achieve, that you weren't good enough?
Yeah, let's see. It started when I was born, up until probably about an hour ago.
Okay.
I mean, that's always a driving force of any artist. Always deep down inside you go, God, I have these people fooled because that really wasn't very good. That script wasn't very good. I don't know why they liked it.
So how do you push through that then if you're always feeling this way? Because I would think that if someone feels that way, they would just be a recluse and not...
It's a matter of I take that and use it to keep honing my skills. You know, I know a great deal about screenwriting and story structure, but I don't know everything. And every day I learn something new. I watch a movie or read a script and I go, God, I didn't think of that. So that's how I get through it, is I keep learning. It's a process. I view it as a process, not as a goal. You know, I take everything in the film business, the rejection, the bad meetings, the good meetings, working on set, not working on set, whatever it is, it's just part of the process.
So going back to the experiential learning. But that's also, there's resiliency in there, because you're taking that opportunity as an opportunity to learn and grow and become better. Is that correct?
That's the whole idea.
How do you get, if you have a big goal that you have in mind, like you are writing a movie and you want to, film this and get it out to people, how do you get that process started? Because that's a big goal that's out there. How do you get on that path to reach that goal?
Wow, that's a really complicated question, because there's so many different ways to get there. I mean, if it's a very low budget movie like this short I did, Binky, I just wrote it in one day, and in 2 weeks I was shooting it. Shot it in 2 days. So something small, something really no budget, I can just think it up and just shoot it. Call friends, borrow equipment, and just shoot it for no money. For a feature, a micro budget feature, I might try to find investors who want to invest in it and so on, but I'd go with mostly individual investors. If it's a multi-million-dollar sci-fi extravaganza, then it involves trying to get to hedge funds and production companies and much bigger entities.
Right, but for your internal process, for the way that you do it, let's say Binky, we'll take
Right.
Binky for example, which
Right.
is going to be in Cannes in May. What was that process like from the beginning to end? How did you get yourself motivated and setting those goals to achieve it?
Well, that was actually motivated by the actress who ended up being in it, where she hadn't worked in a long time. Last time she worked was actually with me on my first feature. And she just said, I'd love to work with you again. And I said, okay, I'll write you a short. I'll write you a comedy. And I went home that night and I wrote Binky. It was like an 8-page script. It wasn't a comedy, but I wasn't feeling funny, so. And there was another role in it I wrote for another actor friend, and I said, let's pick a day in the next couple of weeks and let's just shoot it. So that was, the motivation came from Lucy wanting to work again.
So
that was
someone else's.
Right.
So that almost seems like a social support type thing.
Yes. Yeah. That was the motivation for it. I never expected it to play festivals. I wanted to do it to give her something to do. And I wanted to work with her again, and I thought, what the hell?
So it seems like in the industry that you work in, it's just very spontaneous, and there's a lot of rejection, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches and figure stuff out, be on your toes all the time. Do you think that's a skill that someone who's that way chooses that industry?
Well, see, I wouldn't quite characterize it that way.
Okay.
What it is it's not that it requires very careful planning. Whether if I'm planning for a meeting or planning out a script or planning a shoot, think of every eventuality, come up with a solution in advance, knowing that when you get to that moment, the meeting, the shoot, whatever it is, it's going to be something you did not expect. Mm-hmm. Something is going to come out of left field and you're going to go, wow, I didn't think of that. Okay, how do we fix it?
So that seems like the goal and the different pathways, the accommodating. Do you think that could be applied?
Yes.
In any job or any goal that someone has?
Yes, I think life is like that. You plan one thing and something else happens, and it's how do you react to that? You can either just stop functioning and get angry, or you can say, no, how do we solve this? Let's just figure a solution and move on.
So what would be your advice to someone who's starting their career and they're looking at their options out there and they don't know what to do, or they have an options? How do they take that first step?
I would say the first step is to be familiar with all the people who have done that very thing who came before you. If you're a director, study everything from D.W. Griffith, through David Fincher. Study films from the 20s through modern films. Study everything. If you're an actor, study, actors from Clara Bow all the way through, Jennifer Lawrence. Just study the people who have come before you, learn the craft the way they learned it. That's the most important thing. What
about mentorship? Do you think mentorship is important? Has that helped you in your life at all?
I only really had one mentor, and that was in visual effects. And that was actually very helpful.
And how did that come about?
I was working as a PA at a visual effects company run by John Dykstra, and I would, after my normal 10-hour day, I would hang out on stage at night, and I learned lighting and camera equipment, and I learned all this stuff. And he saw that I was ambitious. I would go out on shoots even if I wasn't on the crew, just to see what they did. And when the time came, he recommended me for an effects supervisor job. So
what is your vision for Binky and Cans?
Well, it's a short, so it's not going to sell for a lot of money. The idea is to use it to promote other projects. Also, other film festivals will scout Cannes for films, so I'm hoping to get other film festivals to screen it. That's the goal. A short is really just a calling card. It's not an end in itself.
Sure.
No?
Any other advice for people getting started on their career?
I think the key, and I'm actually paraphrasing Alec Baldwin, who told a bunch of actors once, he said, enjoy the process, because if you want to be an actor, you're going to get to do very little of it. Most of the time you're spent getting headshots, going on auditions, meeting with agents or whatever, and you spend very little time actually acting. And that applies to writing, directing, everything. So I think the advice is, if you don't enjoy every part of the process, then you're probably in the wrong business.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.